Hey guys, today I'm going to talk about starting wages, how much to pay, where to start. Let's get into it. I just want to start out with some gratitude for you guys. Thank you for asking great questions. So many good questions in the comment section of these YouTube videos. And I write these questions down actually. When I see a question in there that's good, that hasn't been asked before, I will usually answer it and I'll put it in a list. I keep a list in my Wunderlist app of videos I'm going to make eventually. So this is one of those videos today. So thanks again for asking great questions. So the question was originally, how much do you start a person at if you're going to hire somebody? Like, what's a basis for starting wages? So I want to get into this question in two ways. First, from just like a first principles base, from like, you know, what is value, what are wages? And then later on, like at the practical sense of like, just I want to know what to do. I want to know where to start. So on the first principles basis, what is a wage? Wage is basically the value that you're willing to pay somebody to do a job for you. It's the value, it reflects the value that you create in a company. Now, wages can vary from, you know, minimum wage all the way to $1 million an hour. It doesn't matter. And, you know, one thing I will say, I don't like minimum wage. I think minimum wage is a very discriminatory law, and I know there's going to be some people out there that hate libertarians. Smash the dislike button, leave a nasty comment, unsubscribe, fine, whatever. But I just want to speak to minimum wage for a second, because I don't think it helps society, because it creates a barrier to entry to get into the workforce. If you can't create a certain amount of value, the three bottom rungs of the ladder are taken out. You can't get in the workforce. So I think it's a horrible, discriminatory, and history has shown somewhat of a racist law. It's been used to price people out of the marketplace, and I think that's nasty. But unfortunately, it's the world we live in, and so for the sake of this discussion, we'll use minimum wage as our sort of our basis, and then when talking value, we can go, you know, the sky's the limit. So on the high side of it, we've got people like Elon Musk, you know, hockey player Sidney Crosby or Brad Pitt, you know, people that make insane amounts of money to do the jobs that they do. Well, why do they get paid that much? Like, why should Elon Musk make $50 million a year? Well, if anybody knows anything about those companies that he runs, you know, SpaceX, Tesla, or now the Boring Company, knows that that dude creates a ton of value in that company. He doesn't stop working. He works like 100 and something hours a week still, even the fact that he has 4 or 5 kids. I don't know how he manages that. I'm a family guy. Like, I couldn't imagine working those kinds of hours anymore. But needless to say, he does. He's willing to make those sacrifices. He's on call 24/7 on his company. There's a problem in the company. They call him midnight on a Sunday. He's down there. So he's making huge sacrifices. Think about Sidney Crosby, hockey player. I'm not a huge hockey fan. Not even a fan at all, actually. But I know enough about hockey because I'm a Canadian, and most of us do. But that this kid, he's young. He crushes it on the ice. And not only does he make his team win often, but he often will draw people to the game just so they can watch him play. So he brings a lot of value, right? Now think about Brad Pitt in like a Hollywood movie. I personally can't stand Hollywood generally, but Brad Pitt, when he's in a movie, the movie grosses huge amounts of money. So would that movie make the same amount of money if he wasn't in it? Probably not. So the point I'm trying to make here is if you understand that from a logical perspective, it's easy to justify and understand why some people get paid a ton of money. Now let's go on the flip side, on the lowest wage. So if you're in a country and you're obeying the laws of the land, you're going to start somebody or pay somebody minimum wage. So there are internships and apprenticeships and all that kind of stuff too, but that's another discussion. For the sake of this discussion, we're just going to talk like monetary wages. So minimum wage is if that person can't provide at least that value, then you're not going to justify hiring them, right? And so there's a lot of young people out there, new people, maybe immigrants from like desperately poor countries who don't have a lot of skills. That's going to be their starting base, or unfortunately, it might not be at all, because I mean, this is the tragedy of rising minimum wages, is that you're pricing a lot of people out of the market. and especially young people. So I get so many emails, I can't even open them all. From time to time, I see emails of people who are looking for jobs, and I check those emails out, and what are you expecting to get paid? What are you looking for? Where do you want to start? And sometimes I'm blown away, actually. I will say, like, sometimes people think they can start at $20 an hour and they have no experience. Well, it doesn't work that way, right? Like, here's the thing with people who are new is I have to invest in you. So let's say I hire you at minimum wage because I think you're worth at least that, and I'm willing to take a bit of a risk with you. Okay, you don't have much experience, but I like you, and I'd like to see you be here because I think you could fit in and I think you could provide value. I gotta take like 2 weeks to train you. So that costs me money, right? It might not physically, like I'm not writing a check for that money, but it costs me money in the sense that I'm an experienced grower. I've been running this business for going on 9 years, and I can create at the very least $100 of value per hour for all the time I put in the farm. So if I have to train you, I'm now taking away from that value that I'd be creating on the farm to focus on you. So now I'm giving you my economic energy. I'm giving you my knowledge, and I'm taking a risk in you. I'm essentially investing in you. And if you work out and you get better, great, then that investment pays itself off and you will increase the amount of value you create. So you might start at minimum wage, but then you might end up at $20 an hour, right? So that's an investment well paid off. But on the flip side of it, if I train you for 2 weeks and I cost myself that time and you just leave, well, then I just lost on my investment, and now I'm sitting here holding the bag. So this is the risk that we take as employers. So one thing I would say, if you're a young person and you don't have kids, you don't have a mortgage, you don't have big life responsibilities, you should be willing to work for the very least amount of money possible. And I'm not saying that because I'm cheap. I'm not saying that because I don't want to pay somebody. I'm saying that because it will work to your advantage to do that. If you're willing to start at the bottom and work your way up to the top and learn how to provide value before asking for value, you will dominate. Like, you will dominate in the workforce. Because let's be honest here, in today's day and age, there's a lot of entitled brats out there who have grown up in an era of absolute abundance and don't know what real hard work is like and don't know what suffering was like. And I was totally guilty of that. I was a total spoiled brat. Like, I didn't have rich parents. We were pretty poor, actually. But my mom, when I was growing up, basically spoiled us. Like, we were a single mom. We lived away from my dad, and she would just work, didn't spend much time with us, but work, and then just like spoil us. And so when I got into the workforce at a young age, I actually started working at 14, but I had a horrible attitude. I was so entitled. It took me a long time to unwind that stuff. Actually, what it was is when I started tree planting, which was a job that I put myself through college and I paid for all my music career, and I worked like 10 years in it. You get paid by the tree. So if you sit around and do nothing, you get paid zero, which I think is great, frankly, but it's hard to do piecework with a lot of jobs. But I actually learned how to work in there. So if you can adopt an attitude of like working to learn over working to earn when you're young, it will not take you very long to climb the ladder. And you just have to have some perspective in here. Like, life is a long haul. I'm 38 years old. I've been in business for going on 9 years. I've been an employee many different places, and now I run different types of businesses within all the things that I do. So I've got some perspective and experience with all this. And I'm telling you, if you're young, for the first, if you're 20 years old, think about the first at least 5 years of your life as an investment that you're going to just work to like build your skill base, learn how to offer value, basically figure out all of the things that aren't specific to a job, because like so many things are attitude and broad skills, like how you work within a group of people, how you get along, how you manage conflict, all these kinds of things. Those are skills that aren't specific to the job, but are intrinsically infinitely valuable. And if you have those things, you'll be able to work anywhere. So that was a long rant on that first part. Second part, if I was consulting for you and you asked me this and said, you know, where do I start? I would say, look at that person's skill base and then kind of come up with something that's practical. Okay, like what's the minimum wage in your area? It's different everywhere. And then what's like the top wage that you think is realistic you're gonna pay? So, you know, if somebody doesn't have experience, you might just start them at minimum wage and say, hey, look, I'm gonna pay you minimum wage for the first month and we'll reassess then. And if you're really creating a lot of value and I wanna keep you around, then I'll pay you more. Because that's the thing that's important to understand here is like, wages, I mean, we live in somewhat of a free market, right? In the sense that you're not forced to work anywhere. And as an employer, I have an economic incentive to keep you around if you're good. Because if I don't, you're gonna go work somewhere else. So that's why if you're skilled and you work hard, you won't have a hard time finding a job and you will be in demand because people like that are scarce. So I have an economic incentive to keep you around. So you want to know what that number is. It might be, you know, $18 an hour, might be $30 an hour. It just depends on your operation. But you want to keep them around, and you also want to have some ability to grow their wages in a sense. Like you don't want to just go from starting wage to the max that you know you can afford to pay them. You want to think the next 5 years or something like that. Where's my end goal on what I know I can afford to pay? At least now in the current economics of my business, that's what I know I can afford. And it can grow from there. You know, one thing that's great about a good employee is a good employee will allow you to grow your business. And there's risk there too, right? Because if they leave and you've grown your business and now you've got all these responsibilities that you can't manage yourself. So huge risk there. That's part of the reason why I've kept my farm really small. But you know, you want to think about, okay, like if this person makes it so much easier for me, I can now focus on working on the business opposed to working in the business, and that should be the goal of most of us entrepreneurs. Then I can go, okay, well we can grow the business, and then all the fruits of that, or much of the fruit of that growth can go to employees who are great and loyal and want to stick around and are continuously getting better. So those are my thoughts on the whole issue. You know, I just think about wages as like how much value you create. You know, on a really basic level, at the very least, you need to create double the amount of value that you're going to get paid. So if you're going to get paid minimum wage that's say $10 an hour, you need to, at the very, very minimum, create $20 an hour of value. Because there's all kinds of other costs in there besides the wage you're paying that person. There's your time, right? There's material costs. If they break things, you pay for them. There's so many other costs in there. So it's got to be that. Really, I look at it like that person's got to create 3 to 5 times more value than their wage. And if they're a good employee, they'll do that. And having a good team is so key to any business. So I hope you guys have found that stuff helpful. If you have questions like what we talked about today or things, I see a lot of comments in the comment section. A lot of that stuff's in my book. I'm going to leave another discount code to the all-in-one package on my website. It has the audio book, the physical book, and the digital tools package, which is in a bunch of videos that accompany the book. If you're in North America, this is only good for North Americans. I'm sorry about that. So if you're North America, you can get that. Discount code is below. Smash the subscribe button if you haven't already. Like and share the videos with your friends. And thank you so much. We'll talk to you guys later.